All right, guys, welcome back. We are watching Kabukimonogatari, episode 3, Mayoi Jiangshi part 3, of course. Last time, we went back and we have, well, I saved Hajikuji, whatever that's supposed to mean. Well, I mean, we know what that means. What that means is we made her not exist anymore. So, personally, I don't know if I would call that saving, but I guess. And now the world is annihilated, in Aruagi's words. So I guess we're gonna see what that means exactly. But yeah, I mean, sounds about right to me. I don't know what he expected would happen when he destroyed Hajikuji. So I don't know. Let's see. We're watching Kabukimonogatari episode 3. You can line your copy up with this if you want to. We are starting in 3, 2, 1. Looks a little bit annihilated, I guess. I don't know if I would call this annihilated, honestly. I guess it's post-apocalyptic, that's for sure. What do we do, though, about the annihilated world, you know? Is everyone dead? Is anyone alive anywhere? We aren't seeing anyone. Man, rough, huh? That's a crazy shot of her hair there. Alright, let me read the lyrics to the opening for once. I have been doing a bad job this time. My bad. One thing that I was thinking about this opening earlier is this opening is so happy and it's so like upbeat and all of that. And it's so like, I feel like it proves Araragi wrong about his. I guess he's at this point he's just assumed that Hajikuji would be happier having never been made a ghost, you know. But read the lyrics. Like, what am I like? Hello. Really, I don't know. Doesn't seem like that to me. Seems like he is critically mistaken. I do like this opening a lot. It's probably one of my favorites, honestly. Hmm. Yeah, like reading the lyrics, it is so man. She is not. I don't think she's unhappy existing. You know, and that I was thinking about this a lot about how interesting it is asking Hajikuji whether or not she's happy being alive, and like what that could mean for Araragi too. You know, because I think that's a question he has to ask himself. You know, but we'll talk about that in the discussion. Hopefully, I will remember. I should have talked about it last time. August 21st. Yeah, still the same day. Um, well, okay. What are you getting the date from, though? Rough. Just your empty home. Like, okay, what? What are you talking about? Hmm. I guess you gotta see if everyone's gone or not. See, I wonder if they even know how to get back. You know what I mean? Like, they don't really know how time travel works. Well, they're still calling it time travel, even though this is obviously like a different universe, you know? Hmm. And I mean, it must be the whole world, right? Like, I don't see how something like this could happen without the whole world being like this. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sure. Okay. Great. Awesome. Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm glad we're on the same page here. I'm glad we both, we're not blaming each other. Yeah, but what will the actual in-universe explanation be for what happened to the world? You know? Like thematically I get it, but yeah, it's just too fast. I mean, it just doesn't feel real, right? I mean, what is that pose? As expected, huh? Well, I mean, I guess something, either something happened or something didn't happen, right? Well, it has to be something about her, assumedly, right? I don't know. Shinobu's attitude, though. July 14th. What was happening in July? I mean, that was about a month ago. Hmm. Well, I mean, kinda. I mean, probably. She does not. Man, I wonder if she has thought of something that she doesn't want to speak about. Yeah, yeah. Huh. Okay. I don't know if I believe you exactly. I don't know why she would be keeping it a secret, though. I mean, she must know why. She must have figured it out. Something about that date. What would have happened then? Mm-hmm. Sadly, I don't know the timeline well enough to know exactly what would have happened on that day. Well, yeah, we are just gonna leave the world like this. Well, I don't know about that. I think our solution is getting out of this alternate universe, but I don't know. Hmm. But of course, that would be Arugi's attitude, right? Like, of course. Man, I wonder why she's not telling him. Oh, June 14th, not July 14th. My bad, my bad. June 14th. June 14th. I mean, would that have been... That was before Nissan. That must have been sometime during Bake, right? No energy at all. Oh, the talisman. Yeah. Oh, okay. Like, I guess it's a different color, sure. Okay. What's different about it? Well, it literally has to be related. Like, I don't believe it would just be random. Like, if anything, it kind of makes sense. Like, the fact that they can't just leave. Because, yeah, if this talisman has made the energy not exist, then they can't just leave. So it kind of makes sense that the talisman is different, right? Hmm. Why? Okay. Hmm. Sure, go for it. I'm ready. Hit me. Yeah, he is the one who chose the talisman. That is weird, right? Something about this universe was different. Something because Hajikuji didn't exist made him pick this other talisman that destroyed the spiritual energy here. And it either had the side effect or the direct effect of right now not letting them leave. Hmm. Interesting. Uh-huh. Well, maybe. It's, we're really... Oh, he's an aberration, kinda. He can't touch it. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I guess you can still use Shinobu's internal energy, right? We talked about that. But I mean, of course, Aragi's not just going to leave. Oh, right. Of course. Shadow people. Obviously. I should have seen that one coming. Shouldn't you know what they are? Oh, they're zombies. Obviously, they're zombies. Hmm.
どうしてだ。しかしどうしてこいつらこれ以上近づいてこないんだ。この札のせいじゃろうな。この連中は近づけてここまでなのじゃろう。これ以上は危険じゃと分かっておるの。
Okay, well, that's nice. Can we just stand here forever then?
お札の効果があるうちにここからは離れた方が良さそうじゃ。
And man, she is stressed out.
離れる。
I mean, I guess I don't blame her, but we don't see her like this very often, huh?
様も見ての通りどんどん人数が増えてきておるからの。はっきり言って状況が読めん。またなんじゃ怪異である以上は
True, I guess. Yeah.
敵ではないとも思うが、この町の住人の死体
Mm-hmm.
ゾンビかもしれんと思うとうかつに蹴散らすわけにもいかん。
Not that I think Arulagi would be able to mow them down, but
とりあえず逃げるぞお前様。
okay. Oh, all right, sure. I guess you could do that, right? Oh God, beautiful.
とりあえずこれで脱出には成功したの。ああ、しかし一体何だったんだ。
Well, zombies.
いやしかしあれはゾンビというよりは
Okay, but oh, oh, they're everywhere, man. The whole world, huh?
これはさすがに言い訳のしようもなく、都合
Mm-hmm. And of course he's gonna blame himself for it, right?
スリップして過去を変えようとしたばかりに、まさか全人類をゾンビにしてしまうだなんて。いや、お前
Hmm.
それはお前様が気に病むようなことでは。
Oh, I like this a lot, actually. Wait, everyone turning into zombies? Okay.
ことだよ。気持ちは嬉しいが、だけど忍。だって僕は。いや、かばって言っておるのではなく、ただの厳然たる事実じゃ。
Okay. Why? Why is it your fault?
いいから聞くがよい。まずお前様、ありゃゾンビ。
Oh, they're what used to be vampires. Okay. So,
お前様
in her attitude,
というべき
yeah, are we saying that she destroyed the world?
と同じく、わしに吸血鬼化された元
How? Why? What would Haji Kuji? I mean, it's not like if it happened in June, it wouldn't have been Aragi losing to her in Kizu or something, right? Like,
わしなのじゃ。
how? Why? Okay. What would have happened in June that would have made this much of a difference? Especially
高度300メートルを保って、僕たちは夜明けを待った。
because, like, Haji Kuji not being around could have, like, unfathomable changes because of the change it would have on Aragi, like, as a person, right? Especially with, like, yeah, because he wouldn't have a relationship with Haji Kuji. So, like, fundamentally, anything that he did throughout the entire story could be radically different, right? So it could really be, like, anything.
正確にはこの歴史におけるわしのせいじゃ。この歴史っていうのは、つまり
And obviously that's tied to Shinobu. That's what I'm saying, like, yeah, it goes down to Araki still, right?
星野忍という意味だよな。そう。
And I'm sure that's how he's gonna think about it too, but...
2ヶ月前にいわゆる全人類を吸血鬼化したということじゃ。
okay. Why? How...
14日。その日が何の日だったか、さっきようやく思い出せたのじゃ。その日が何の日だったかって。
What day was it? Okay. Shinobu, just tell me, please.
なんかピンとこんか。そりゃ世界が滅ん
Okay. Aragi, no. The real June 14th.
の夜、あるいは6月15日って。違う。そうでは
Yeah.
元の歴史における6月14日の夜じゃ。6月14日ね。14日。
He has no idea. He has no clue. He's just like me for real.
ピンとこんようじゃの。6月15日が文化祭とやらの前日であるといえば。
The day before what you call the school festival. So that was like the very... Okay, yeah, the very end of Bake. Okay, alright. And Shinobu was involved there. Okay, sure.
普段からあれだけ恩人言っておる元委員長の身に重大事件が起きた日付も、わしの家でも、アロハ小僧が去っていった日付も、
Mm-hmm.
全部まとめて忘れておったと。
And what? So stuff went down differently between... Did Araragi let Hanakawa kill him? That's what happened. That literally has to be what happened. Araragi let Hanakawa kill him because, without Haji Kuji and, like, what she represents for Araragi, of course his attitude would be completely different in that scene, right? In that moment. His whole, like, you can only save yourself thing.
わしの家出の方じゃ。
Okay, alright, okay. That literally has to be it. So yeah, it's because of Hajikuji, but because of her impact on Aragi and like what she represents in that sense, right? Yeah, obviously. Come on, Aragi, catch up. Right, 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 right.
結局あの家出の詳細についてわしはお前様に何も語っておらんし、お前様
True.
もあえてわしに語
Yeah.
らんかった。その気遣いはありがたいと思うし、じゃからここでも詳しい話をするつもりはないのじゃが、しかし一つだけここで隠しきれん事実を開示するとしよう。もったいぶるなよ。あの日わしは
Oh, okay. All right, that's how she knew. That's how she was positive. I guess I can't blame her. Her life was miserable, huh? Not through her own fault partially as well, shutting herself off completely, right? I mean, again, I don't think she's completely blameless for her behavior in Bake. Not unable to find her, really. Um, is that okay? Okay, true. I mean, I guess that's true, right? Um, oh, so I guess things just would have went completely differently, right? Yeah, yeah. Would you even, man, I don't know. Would you even be dating Shinjigahara? I mean, yeah, and like if he wasn't even dating Shinjigahara, then his entire life could have just been completely different, right? He might have not faced the same things in Bake, that like resulted in him starting to change like his attitude about relationships, right? Or at least forced him to engage with relationships in a way. So just everything could have been different, right? I mean, hmm well, I think we know what happens if Shinobu dies, right? That's what she wanted in Kizu. You return to being human.
それともの方じゃな。あのおつむの足らん猫娘は絶対に分かっておらんかったじゃろうが。まあ、あのアロハ小僧は分かっておったはずじゃな。お前様も言われたことがあったろう。
Hmm.
わしを見捨てれば、い
Yeah.
つでも人間に戻る。
And then the reverse, if Araki dies, that would just be the same as Shinobu getting her power back, right? Yeah.
そしてわしは
Nice.
本気で世界を
Yeah.
滅ぼしたのだ。
Especially with Aragi's death, right? Like, yeah.
具体的にはこの町中の人間を、日本中の人間を、世界中の人間を
Hmm.
吸血鬼化したのじゃろう。人間をすべて吸血鬼化。
Man.
現実には
And yeah, and then it's just like a chain reaction.
数人といったところじゃろうがな。その数人はわし同様に世界を滅ぼそうとする吸血鬼となり、周囲の人間から吸血し続けるということじゃ。
Intred, they like inherit her will, huh?
吸血鬼もまた遡ればわしの眷属、同じように世界を滅ぼそうとする吸血鬼じゃ。
Although, I don't know, is that true? Aragi didn't really inherit her will when he became a... I don't know, I don't know. I mean, it happened, so I guess it must be true, but...
でもその話だと、僕は死んでるけれど、お前は死んでないだろう。この歴史のお前は今、どこで何をしているんだ。世界を滅ぼしてしまった後のお前は、
Hmm...
お前がここにいるんだから。おそらくこの歴史
Hmm...
すでに死んでおる。死んで言うまでもない。全盛期に
Yeah.
殺せる者など一人しかおらん。
Interesting.
他ならぬわしじゃ。
It's interesting that she would... Yeah, that she would commit suicide in this case when
そしてわし
she
が
was unable to do it in Kizu, right? It was very much like the same thing as Araragi, right? Like she wanted to die for Araragi, right?
吸血鬼から人間に戻るためには、自分の手でお前を殺す
Scared of death beyond that. But I guess she was just pushed to that point in this universe.
戻りようもないしな。吸血鬼の血が暴走するのに
I guess there's just nothing left for her, right? God, that's actually... Oh.
こんなことをするつもりではない。
Hmm...
わしはただお前様に見つけてほしいだけじゃった。それなのにあんなこちらが拗ねたみたいな理由でお前
Uh, I mean, it's not your fault, right? You're different now, right? Aragi's different now. You're different now. Like, Aragi shouldn't blame this version of himself either for not having found you. Right. And I hope he can take that to heart as well. I hope. I hope this doesn't just serve to, like, feel like it raises the stakes for him. Hmm. Yeah. You who's standing in front of me right now. And surely through that same logic he shouldn't blame himself either, right? But it's interesting because that should lead him to an understanding of the change that Hajikuji is representative of and the change that happened through to him throughout Bake averted this universe from existing, right? Costco, okay. So you would think that's like something to think about for him, you know? I mean, of course, if his own the change within his life before this wasn't enough. They left money here, I guess. Oh, a bunch of fireworks? Okay. Sure. Sure, true. Okay, right. Not everyone has to be dead. Oh, let's go. Man, they've been here for a few days, huh? How awful that must be to just be here, just alone. Hmm. It makes sense for both of them, though, doesn't it? You know, being alone together. It kind of shows their relationship so perfectly, right? That both of them have kind of saved each other from this kind of extreme loneliness, you know? And now they're all the other has. Hmm. That would be awful if that was the case. Oh, huh? Okay. It tipped over. Wow, how terrifying. The bucket tipped over. What are we gonna do? Oh, right. Okay. Like, sure. Okay, that's all right. Like, I guess. Okay, that's the end of the episode. Sure, why not? Okay. Okay, that was a good episode. I like that one. Man. Okay, wow. That was a good ending. That's a great ending, huh? I gotta think about that episode. Hmm. I'm liking the setting that they're in now. I like it a lot. The destroyed world, them being alone together. I think it makes a lot of sense, right? For like what their relationship is and what they've done for each other. You know, this these ending lyrics now, I think they do kind of fit now with like Shinobi, right? Not just from Hanakawa's perspective, but like Shinobi's too. Man, we have not been getting a lot of Haji Kuji for an arc that is named after her, have we? But I guess that's the point. She was obliterated. Hmm. All right, I gotta lock in for the quiz. I'll get it right this time. Absolutely. It was a classic.
人が自分で名曲っていうのを聞くと弾くな。言葉としてディスコの方から先に覚えちゃったから、
Uh-huh.
ディストピアってすっごく楽しい曲
Okay, well,
だと思ってたよ。
the opposite, actually.
ディストピアなんだって思ってた。大胆な勘違いだ。ちなみにユートピアは有効な都市のことだと思ってた。
Why would it mean that?
言葉の方を先に覚えちゃったから。
I don't know that word, unfortunately.
じゃあシェイクスピアは何なんだよ。シェイクスピアは劇作家でしょ。カレンちゃん何言ってるの。ここをディストピアにしてやろうか。
Okay, I don't know. I didn't get that one, sadly. I failed the quiz. Unlucky.
ちなみにプラチナをプラスチックの丈夫な物体かと思ってた。
Nice. What?
と思ってなくてよかったぜ。
Okay, alright. That one was beyond me. Okay, we will talk about the episode in the discussion. Okay, let's talk about the episode. So, man, I don't know. Gotta think about this one, that's for sure. So the world has been annihilated, which again makes sense, and now it makes sense in universe for me too, basically. And it is because of Hachikuji. More specifically, it's because of the effect, it's because of, like, the lack of Hachikuji existing in Aragi's life, and that leading him to being different, being a different person, and making different decisions than he did, like, in the real timeline, in Bakimonogatari, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would call the world annihilated. I feel like Aragi kind of, he played it up at the end of the last episode, I guess. But I guess it's pretty annihilated. Like, I would call this, like, moderately annihilated, I guess. Not, like, completely annihilated. I don't know. Love the opening. The opening's good. But yeah, everyone is gone. And Aragi and Shinobu are plunged into complete, I don't know, isolation. They only have each other. Which is interesting. I was really trying to think about, like, what I can take from that, right? Like, of course it makes sense that they only have each other, because that's kind of, like, their whole relationship in general, right? You know, ever since Kizu, and, like, in Kizu, the decision that they both made at the end of Kizu was, like, to both be alive instead of killing themselves, like, literally for the other person, essentially, right? Like, Aragi can't let her die for him, and Shinobu can't let Aragi die for her, right? So if that's what, like, the line is for them to be able to, like, actually go through it. God, my headset wire is all messed up. To be able to actually go through with committing suicide, then they need to do it for another person. Then they're kind of keeping each other alive by not letting the other one do that, you know? So it kind of makes sense then that at the end of this, when Aragi died at the end of Bake, that's when it's kind of the tipping point for Shinobu, and she actually goes through with this horrible, destroying the world thing. Which for her also makes sense, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, saying that the world is annihilated for Aragi makes a lot of sense, because Hachikuji isn't around. He never had a relationship with Hachikuji. So of course the world is annihilated, right? Like, we talked about that in the last discussion. But for Shinobu, that also makes sense, right? Like, with Aragi dead, then she's just kind of put back in the same dark place she was in, like, in Kizu, that led her to the place she was in when she wanted to die, just like Araki did, right? So I don't know, it makes sense. Them being able to cope, essentially, with the destroyed world in this version of reality, because they have each other here still, at least, right? Like, I don't know, that also, like, yeah, that fits, right? That makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. I don't know what this scene was all about. I don't know what that was all about. And yeah, and they check everyone. Everybody is gone. No one is around. Well, people are around, they're just zombies, right? And I want to talk about zombies for a second, because I think that's also interesting. I think that applies to, like, Aragi's way of viewing the world, too, right? Like, his whole mindset, let's say, through the lack of Hachikuji, because Hachikuji didn't exist, he never had a relationship with her, that everything in Bake kind of went completely differently, right? He might have still had a relationship with Sindrugahara because he did save her. All the crab stuff did happen before he met Hachikuji, right? Like, the Hachikuji stuff was kind of the beginning of their relationship, as far as we know. But he did still save her. He did still, I'm sure Sindrugahara would still be interested in him either way. So, he could have still been dating her. But either way, I think you have to imagine, without Hachikuji being around, and what she represents, which is, again, essentially him, like, breaking away from his terrible mindset about human relationships and them being bad. I guess we can assume that he didn't really form meaningful relationships with like anyone, probably, right? I mean, I don't think that's really going too far. I feel like without Hachikuji, without what she represents for him, I just don't know if he, even if he did form the same relationships that everyone else, that he did in like the Bake that we know. Um, Without Hachikuji being existing and being a direct counter to his mindset about human relationships being bad that he had ever since Kizu, then I don't know if he would have been able to like engage in those relationships like meaningfully, you know? Because like again, Hajikuji was always his relationship that he was able to or unable to corrupt in that way. And I think that kind of affected his mindset about everything else, right? Like he would go to Hajikuji for help about all of these different things, right? Even like things about Hanakawa and Senjukahara, his sisters and Nisei, all of that, right? Of course, this world ended before Nisei, but you know what I mean. So without her being around, without him having that essentially her as a psychologist to help him out, then I just don't think he would be able to form meaningful relationships at all. I don't think he'd be able to break out of his mindset from Kizu. Not that I'm saying he really has still. Like I think maybe he can understand that the way he thought was like that he has evidence against it. But I still feel like the fundamental things that led him to that position in the first place haven't changed. But I'm just saying through this case, without him being able to form meaningful relationships with everyone being a zombie like makes a lot of sense to me. Like it's almost like that's how Aragi would view other people in this case in his relationships with them. Like relationships with other people lead you to being less human or making you lose your humanity. Well, yeah, these zombies literally, if you tried to go hang out with a zombie, they're gonna bite you and you're gonna be a zombie, right? So I don't know. It just feels like a furtherance of the whole monster human analogy alongside Aragi's way of viewing it. And of course, thank God they're on the same page here about who's at fault about all of this. And it's really, I don't know. I in this moment, Aragi wants to blame Shinobu. At least he's like saying that, that it's her fault. I guess that is before he actually understands the actual like what happened, right? Um, and then it's like he immediately wants to say, no, it's not your fault at all, right? The you who's sitting in front of me didn't do any of this. Which it kind of worries me. It worries me in a way because it makes me think like for Aragi has this whole thing about right and wrong and wanting to make the correct decisions. He thinks there's like an objective like what is right and what is wrong and what he should be doing. And you could almost view this whole thing they're dealing with here, this whole situation they're in, as like raising the stakes for him, right? You could view it as, oh, if I don't make the correct decisions and I don't do what is always right, the world could literally be destroyed, right? He could view it like that, and I really hope he doesn't. But the other interesting way he could view it, with this all, if he like actually thinks about it and realizes like what this means, and I think he does, because there's the line that he says like, without Hajikuji existing, the Aragi in this world was someone who like never met her and wasn't changed by her, right? He could also view this as like more evidence against his whole like crazy thing about what's right and wrong, right? Or at least maybe it wouldn't like serve as a way to lower the stakes for him. Like it could still raise the stakes either way and make him think he has to be doing what's right at all times. But it could help him change his mind about like what is right and what's wrong. Because in this case, if this leads him to an understanding that the Aragi in this universe acted somehow like more in line with like his ideology that he had like in Kizu and like didn't change his mind as much about all of that, because of the lack of Hajikuji, um, that just led to the world being destroyed. Right, you know what I mean? Because he didn't form these more meaningful relationships with other people, because he ended up letting Hanakawa kill him, because he held on to the bitter end, the idea of uh, you can only save yourself, and he didn't ask for help from anyone. Uh, the world was destroyed, right? So you could also hope that if he thinks about it and he's not dumb, then in some way he can use this everything that has happened here as further evidence that he is wrong about that stance on things and that he should, like, not think that way, right? I really don't know which way he would take it and like how he would think about it. Um, but like I don't know, it makes sense to me. It just even more it makes it so clear to me that Hajikuji just like almost solely is responsible for him changing his mind about his or changing his behavior at least, changing the way he interfaces with his beliefs about relationships with other people, right? Like if Hajikuji not existing really is the fundamental thing that makes him not ask for help and makes him let Hanakawa kill him in the last episode of Bake, then yeah, I don't know. That just feels like undeniable proof to me that that's correct to view Hajikuji in that way. Of course, like I mean, circumstantially, it just makes complete sense with like the role Hajikuji has in the story. But it just even more so, it just feels like it's really being thrown in your face here. Like, yeah, that just it makes sense to me, I guess. Hmm. I think there's a really interesting line from Araragi here. Um, I can't even bring myself to grieve. Honestly, it's pretty shocking. I can't just sit here and cry about it. As expected, this is what is he saying as expected here? I really think this goes back to him saying as expected is like I think this is like what he expected would happen if Hajikuji didn't exist, right? Not literally the world being destroyed, right? Like he's going on here about how the world is destroyed. It's a scale I can't even comprehend, all of this. So he didn't think it would be this bad. But I think this line saying as expected, I think he knew coming back through the gate yet again and at the end of the last episode, what was going through his mind in that moment. He was thinking, okay, I'm going to go back to a world and Hajikuji won't exist, you know? So I think he had to be thinking that this is going to suck. This is going to be horrible. Everything is going to be terrible because Hajikuji won't exist. He thought that's like worth it and that's just how it should be because, of course, he thought, oh, I've been deluding myself with this whole Hajikuji stuff this whole time. I should have, discarded her long ago. Our relationship was actually wrong from the very beginning, and she didn't want to exist. Um, so I think in his mind he knew there would be some kind of consequence for this. He knew that things would suck without Hajikuji. And that's what I think this line is saying, is him saying as expected. He didn't think it would be the entire world is destroyed. Um, but I just think I think that makes sense. I think that kind of gives it away that in his mind. And I guess I don't really know if I should like take that a step further and say that therefore it was like Aragi's mind and him thinking about it like this that like produced this world and like this alternate timeline. Because it's clear now at this point. Obviously, the time travel in this universe works through the sense of like alternate universes, right? Because like if it was deterministic, this wouldn't be possible. They were in a different timeline now, right? Obviously, because this is a different present day than the one we've already seen in Tsubasa Tiger, right? Um, so I don't know if I should say it works literally. Time travel works on like aberration logic, and because Aragi was thinking that everything would be terrible without Hajikuji, that like his mind produced this alternate universe and like this is what it is. The world is destroyed. I kind of like that. Like, it makes sense. Obviously, their actual explanation for it in the universe makes complete sense too. So. Um, but either way, I don't know. It makes sense to me. So I like it either way. Either way, we can go with it, I guess. And I guess Shinobu just must know what it is. She knows, I guess, right? Because I mean, if she was seriously considering annihilating the world just a couple months ago, and then suddenly she shows up and the world is annihilated, I think it would be pretty impossible to not be thinking that, right? It's like DD pushed the big red button. I don't know what that means, Aragi. You're gonna need to help me. This is pretty SF, science fiction. I know what that means. The Fire Sisters told me. Hmm. Oh, okay, and I want to talk about this now because I don't want to forget about it. I don't want to forget about it. Aragi asking Hajikuji whether or not she's happy being alive. I keep forgetting to talk about this because I should have talked about it literally in the first episode. I don't know why I didn't think about it until right now. Um, I think it's very meaningful him deciding to ask Hajikuji specifically whether or not she's happy being alive because Araragi Aragi. We know Aragi has struggled with suicidal thoughts and like being horribly depressed and wanting to die and all of that, right? And if Hajikuji is in some way representative of his change from that position, right? Like he's always so happy around Hajikuji. I think that alone shows it, you know. Him going up to her and asking her, you know, oh, are you happy being alive? You know, is that it's like him asking her, like, is it worth it? You know, like, is this right? Am I gonna be happy, like, living like this, living like the way that Hajikuji like represents for him? The change that he has experienced ever since Kizu, when he was at that point, when he himself was very much not happy being alive, you know. If Hajikuji is happy being alive, being like what she is and who she is, especially because Hajikuji's like her existence now is purely just the relationship she has with other people, right? Like she certainly wasn't happy being alive, I imagine, when she was wandering the streets alone for 11 years, you know. Um of course that like her wandering the streets alone for 11 years, obviously that's not like wanting her to avoid that fate and not having to deal with that. I understand it, but obviously it's what her life is now is what matters, right? It's not like Aragi should make her not exist just to make her avoid that fate. But beyond that, right? Now her entire life and what made her life have meaning is her relationships with other people, is her relationship with Aragi, probably with Hanakawa, you know, with other people, you know. So just like Aragi in his life has now found meaning through his relationships with other people, he wants to go ask her, like, are you happy? Like, are you happy being a ghost now? You know? Because that's just like him, right? Like he needs to find out if he is also happy now through the way that his life has changed ever since Kizu, ever since meeting Hajikuji, really, right? So, I don't know. I really like that. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know why I didn't think about that until, like, yesterday. I should have realized that immediately when Ononoki asked him to ask Hajikuji that. Like, man, I'm slacking off. Like, come on. Hmm. And don't worry, we'll talk about Shinobu in a minute. About her and her destroying the world. I think, I don't know. It is interesting. Her apologizing for it too is, I think, hmm. Araki and Shinobu are just so similar that almost literally anything I say about Araki can be connected to Shinobu too, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. And so we were gonna go back in time to the day that the world was destroyed, but the shrine won't let them. Which is interesting, right? We have the seal on the shrine that absorbs the energy, and like this has to be connected to like stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's not obviously like Shinobu says this stupid thing about how these trivial details of history have changed. But, like obviously this has to be like meaningful, right? The fact that they can't just go back and leave this world because this thing is different, right? Like to me, the reason why this is different, the only function this would have is making it so they can't go back, right? That they're stuck here, you know? So it has to be related to like what's going on here. The fact that the talisman is different, you know. I don't really know how that would be possible, like what that means exactly, right? Um, but it's just clear that that is the function it is serving in the story. It's not just going to be changed through trivial means that don't mean anything. So obviously, it has to be here like for that function, right? I think it would just be silly to think otherwise, you know. Um, I guess I don't really know like what more to say about that. I guess I mean I don't know. I don't know. Like why would Oshino choose a different talisman, you know? Oshino sent Araragi here. Okay, no, you know, it could be this, right? It could be Oshino sent Araragi here through after Suruga Monkey, right? He sent him here in the first episode of Nautico Snake. That's what it was. Um and by that point, Araragi already had a relationship with Hajikuji. He was dating Sindrugahara. He had probably changed pretty significantly already by that point compared to whatever his mindset would be at this point in universe in this timeline, right? And Hajikuji not existing, you know. So I just wonder if this shrine, if no, here I'll say it this way: if Oshino is like understands the potential threat that Shinobu represents with like her mindset about things, you know, um, and the shrine isn't somehow representative of powers that Shinobu can use, right? Like I mean, literally it is, right? It's not just representative of that. That's what it is in universe, you know. Is that Shinobu can come here and use these powers here to like do stuff, you know. Then Oshino, seeing that Araragi hasn't made much progress ever since Kizu, and I think Oshino also understanding that like Araragi is kind of the person responsible for Shinobu at this point, and if he doesn't like change and like make her, I don't know, not want to destroy the world, then that's like bad. Then Oshino deciding to send Araragi up here with this talisman that destroys the ghastly energies kind of makes sense to me in that case, right? That if he can tell in this universe that Araragi is not making progress and isn't going to be someone who can actually like handle Shinobu and like save her from her mental state, then him deciding that it's safer to destroy the spiritual energies in this universe, that kind of makes sense to me, you know? Like, it would be the difference in Aragi's behavior because of Hajikuji existing or not, and what Oshino thinks about that in relation to Aragi and Shinobu's relationship, right? I think it was always clear, especially in like Nekomonogatari Kuro and the things that Oshino would say about Shinobu, that Oshino always knew that Shinobu wasn't actually just the husk of a vampire, and that she was still in there, and that Aragi was going to have to, like, I don't know, treat her like a normal person eventually, you know? So, I don't know. I guess that explanation kind of makes sense to me, right? In terms of it, like, actually meaning then that they can't go back, I guess that kind of disconnects it from that, right? It could still be like some weird timeline stuff and it's going to make sense in the end. Like, the fact that they can't go back now means they're going to fix this timeline and that's somehow going to, like, do something that's going to mean something. You know what I mean? Like, typical, like, time travel show stuff, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Hmm. Yeah, it's so much more extreme, right? It's like Oshino must have known, you know? And like, yeah, Oshino's saying it's preventing a great aberration war. Like, by great aberration war, does he mean Shinobu? Right? You know? Like, obviously, as I'm saying all this, I'm realizing like Oshino was wrong because Shinobu ended up destroying the world anyway, right? Through Aragi's death. But I don't know. I don't know. It's just something to think about, I guess. And Aragi's real mad at Oshino. Hmm. Aragi wants to peel it off, but he can't. Because he is an aberration. Unlucky. And then the zombies show up, so unlucky, I guess. I don't know. Rough. Rough that everyone's a zombie. Rough, rough, rough. You know, the other thing about the zombies is like, you know, it's also it shows like everyone around Aragi being dead, right? That's kind of the other meaningful thing. Is like I don't know. And like I guess that just kind of fits into the whole world being annihilated thing. But it just shows like his lack of relationships with other people just leading to everyone he cares about also just like dying. Right? Like it really feels like it raises the stakes, but in the sense of like his mindset about these things really was always wrong, and it was going to lead him to this place. Everyone he cares about being dead and the world being destroyed. You know? Like, hmm. So we really got to think about Shinobu here, right? Like, Aragi wants to blame himself, of course, and I understand why he wants to blame himself. Shinobu blames herself because she is the one who actually destroyed the world. Well, not really her, but her from 2 months ago. Um, so I really got to think, like, what is Shinobu thinking as she sees this world destroyed through her own actions, in a sense, right? Not literally through her own actions, but something that she wanted to do not that long ago, right? And seeing the actual outcome of what it would have been, you know? Hmm. In a sense, there has to be some kind of recognition of like regret, right? Like she definitely regrets feeling this ever in the first place because of how different her circumstances are now, ever since like Nisei, right? Um, and it is interesting because it's really her who did open up to Araki and Nisei, right? Like she is the one who showed up in the bath and decided to talk to him. You know, if she had just kept her mouth shut forever and had never opened up, I don't think Araki would have ever opened up to her. I don't think he even knew that was a possibility. You know, So it is interesting that in that sense she kind of did save herself, right, through doing that. Of course, it was Araragi willing to ask her for help that led her to that place in the first place, like being able to do that, I feel like, you know. So for one, an important thing is I feel like we can't really blame either of them for the circumstances here, right? It's neither of their faults, really, you know. Um, I understand Shinobu wants to blame herself so much because I guess she is literally the one who like did this, right? Um, hmm. In a sense, it's like her. I mean, for both of them, I suppose. Really, that's what we're doing here. It's for both of them. Really, the world that they're seeing here, the destroyed world, is just the place where their like mindsets led them. If they hadn't like changed, you know what I mean? And it's interesting because I've always said that Shinobu and Araragi are so similar in terms of like their isolation and where it led them, right? But for Shinobu, she ended up like withdrawing even more. Like after Kizu, her what she did, her reaction to it was to withdraw even more and try and not connect with Araragi even more, you know? Which is interesting. That is a difference between them, right? Araki, I guess. Araki just has like a different defense mechanism than that, you know? He decided to just sign off Shinobu as a worthless husk of a vampire, who he just destroyed through his own actions, and you know he's just not going to think about that anymore, right? Like, so I don't know. I don't know. It is interesting. Um, hmm. It's just hard for me to pinpoint what exactly the difference here is, right? Like, because of course Aragi is going to blame himself for this no matter what, right? He is going to think that this is his fault, uh, in this universe, just like Shinobu is going to think that this is her fault in this universe. So, there's definitely a difference in the way they're approaching it, you know? Because Aragi says it's not her fault. Um, but I don't know if he's saying that with an understanding that it's not really his fault either. Maybe he is. Um, well, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he is, right? Because of his mindset about his stance on relationships hasn't really been fully fleshed out yet. And he's not ready to like recognize that like he was wrong about that, which I don't really think he is, and I don't think he has done that yet. Um, then realizing that he himself isn't the one at fault for the universe being like this, um, would require him to recognize. Wait, no, am I saying this wrong? He would have to recognize that his own behavior was wrong. He would have to, yeah, I was saying this the wrong way around. He would have to recognize that his behavior, in terms of not forming relationships with other people because of lack of Hachikuji, he would have to recognize that behavior is wrong in order to blame himself for what happened here, right? Like you know what I mean? Like at least I think that makes sense, right? I hope you understand what I'm saying here. Like, if he wants to be like, okay, this is my fault that the world was destroyed because this happened. Um, Either one, he has to have this weird disconnect between recognizing the influence others have had on him and like not, but that just doesn't make sense because like he didn't destroy the world in this case, right? Like in the real timeline, he didn't destroy the world, so he has to understand that the influence that had on him led to the world not being destroyed. You know what I mean? I guess in either case, it's hard to come up with a logical way for him to blame himself because it just doesn't make sense for him to blame himself. You know what I mean? So I feel like in that case, he must be struggling with it either way, right? His go-to thing would be to blame himself for this situation. Um, but how would he do that in this case without like fundamentally recognizing his old way of viewing relationships as being wrong, right? I hope we get what I'm saying here. Rough. Hmm. And yeah, that was the day. That was the day Hanakawa was gonna kill him. It all comes back to Hanakawa. Like, man, rough. Um, I hate Aragi and Hanakawa together so much. They destroyed the world because of Hanakawa wanting to kill Aragi and Aragi being willing to let her do it. Like, yeah. Like, I guess that makes sense, of course, but still, just awful. Although it is interesting, I guess he must have been dating Shinjigahara by this point, right? I feel like he must have been. Because why would he let Hanekawa kill him if he hadn't been dating Shinjigahara, right? He would have just started dating her out of pity, right? That was my conclusion that I came to in Bake, was that without him having dated Shinjigahara, he would have just started dating Hanekawa there out of pity, if anything, right? Even if he didn't have feelings for her, or more so, if he was unable to, because I think he did have feelings for her, but he was unable to recognize, like, unable to be in a relationship like that. You know what I mean? So he would just start dating her out of pity. That's what he would always tell himself about the relationship if that did happen, right? So I guess he must have been dating Shinjigahara if it got to the point where he was willing to let her kill him, you know? Which kind of just makes it even worse, right? If he had Shinjigahara and Shinjigahara alone wasn't enough, and he still ended up making that decision in the end instead of reaching out for help, right? I feel like that alone kind of shows that his foundation of his relationship with Shinjigahara in his mind is still kind of twisted in some weird way, you know? Hmm. Because I guess in a way, all of this is about, like, facing your previous decisions and, like, your previous mindset about things and recognizing whether or not you can, like, blame yourself for that, right? Like, maybe that's why I'm struggling so much with Aragi's potential mindset about this and wanting to blame himself. It's because that's, like, the point, right? Is that for both of them, it's like they're really, like, facing their past selves and, like, dealing with the consequences of the way that they both used to think, right? I guess that's really what we're doing here, you know, is for Shinobu especially, it's like her facing who she was just 2 months ago. Um, she has to recognize, like, that that's not her, right? That she has changed since then, you know? I guess for Aragi, it really is just as meaningful for him too, right? That because it is his decisions that like led to this, his unwillingness to connect with Shinobu, his unwillingness to connect with anyone, most likely because of Hachikuji not being around. That like led to this in a sense, right? But that's not him, right? Just like he says to Shinobu, that's not her, you know. So it really is. It's like them literally. It's like this is like a reconciliation with their previous beliefs that they had, like in Kizu, right? And understanding where that would have led them, and like how much better their circumstances are now. I suppose, you know. Hmm. And I just wonder what the difference is. What was the difference for Shinobu in Bake versus Nisei, right? In Nisei, she was able to approach Aragi and like she was able to approach him herself and rekindle their relationship herself, you know? In Bake, why was she in a place where she was unable to do that, right? She so desperately wanted Aragi to be the one to reach out to her instead of vice versa, like we see happens in Nisei, you know? I wonder why that is, you know? I guess in some way she still felt betrayed by Aragi ever since Kizu, which is stupid, but of course, right? Um, hmm. I mean, I guess that's kind of just a human thing to just feel like in the first place, right? Not wanting to be the one who keeps the relationship going yourself, right? Like if she thought, especially knowing in some sense Aragi's stance on relationships and that, you know, that I guess she just might have thought it would just be pointless to try and do that herself, you know? Like it's possible that her desperation she's referring to isn't even desperation to get Aragi to reach out to her, but more so like by that point she'd already given up on it, right? Like she thought by that point that there's no way Aragi's ever going to, that her forming any kind of meaningful relationship is just never going to happen. So she just wants to annihilate the world, right? And then him actually reaching out to her in Tsubasa Cat was like not even what she was wanting exactly. Like before, that's what she wanted. By that point, she might have just already having given up on it. But that's when Aragi finally did it. You know. Yeah, if Hachikuji doesn't exist as an aberration, not only would the events of June 14th not happen, I never would have met Hachikuji on Mother's Day. The Araragi Kiyomi of this world is an Araragi Kiyomi that has never met Hachikuji Mayoi. Yeah. Hmm. And it's crazy how Araragi is just immediately able to like connect that. He's immediately able to know. And then that means Black Hanakawa killed him, you know? And I guess he could just be thinking like, oh, I wouldn't have known to ask for Shinobu's help, but still, like, God, I don't know. I don't know. I think he's more aware than he lets on about these things. And yeah, we set up, of course, their whole dynamic here, right? That if Shinobu dies, Aragi goes back to being human. And if Aragi dies, Shinobu goes back to being like vampire, right? Because of course, like being human versus being a vampire mean like opposite things for them, right? Like both of them are representative of human connection because for both of them, when Aragi was fully human, that was when he was least connected to people, and for Shinobu, when she was fully vampire, that's when she was least connected to people, right? And we know like where those led them both, right? So yeah, I mean, makes sense, right? Everyone became a vampire, so unlucky, I guess. And yeah, it was a pyramid scheme of vampires. And Shinobu says she is already dead. She took herself out, which makes sense. I guess if there's no one else left, right? If there's literally her, because I get the sense that like her desire to die for someone else in Kizu, um, in some way has to be connected to like a weird like lingering hope, you know. But if she has extinguished that completely at that point, then there's no one left. There's literally be no one for her to die for in that case, you know. Her fear of death that prevented her from dying down in the train station, you know. I mean, I guess it would just be gone because there's literally nothing left to live for, right? Like, but yeah, she's dead. No way to get anyone back to normal. And I don't know, this is so meaningful. Like, she apologizes, he looks shocked like this, right? And I feel like in some way it has to be a realization himself that he shouldn't blame himself for this type of thing either, right? For the situation they're in now. Um, and I feel like you have to connect it as well, not only to this situation, but like to previous situations in Aragi's life. Hmm. It's almost like not wanting to like blame yourself for past events in general. You know what I mean? Like wanting to recognize that what really matters is like the here and now and not being so caught up in what could have happened in the past, right? I guess that applies for Hachikuji too, you know? If Aragi's so caught up on preventing her from being an aberration so she doesn't have to suffer for 11 years, that's so just like short-sighted and so focused on the past, you know? When really what matters is her life now. You know, what matters is the experiences she's having now and whether or not she's happy as a ghost now, you know? Same with Aragi, you know? If Aragi is happy now, having relationships with other people and being connected with others, and turning his back in some sense to his old way of viewing relationships, then that's what like matters, right? You know? So I guess that makes sense, you know, him being able to tell Shinobu that she shouldn't apologize for this either. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's a whole lot of stuff at play with it, honestly. It's complicated, you know? The you who is standing in front of me right now, right? Like he is recognizing that like the same thing she's struggling with right now, which is the consequences of this decision that she could have made, you know, that she wanted to make. It's kind of the same thing that I feel like Aragi struggles with, you know, is always feeling like he has to do the right thing, so therefore struggling with the idea of like, the decisions that he could have or should have made in the past, you know. Because again, it's like what matters is that's not Shinobu. That's not the Shinobu we know. That was never the Shinobu we knew. That was a possibility, but it didn't happen, you know. And we go to Costco. So no, we go to Cost-U. My bad. Cost-U, of course. I guess this is where you go in a zombie apocalypse. They get a bunch of fireworks. Man, it's so nice that they have each other, at least, right? Because they're here for like 5 days or something, right? It says it's August 26th, which is crazy. Yeah, 26th of August. Just insane. I mean, just even 5 days of being alone in a world like this you would be miserable. But they have each other, you know, that's what's important. That's kind of their relationship in a nutshell. Hmm. It's not good to expect too much, but you can't do anything if you're being overly pessimistic. Wait, let me read this again. If you just wait thinking it's useless, nothing will come of it. That's just an interesting thing to be said, isn't it? Can't do anything if you're being overly pessimistic. Yeah, that kind of fits for both of you, doesn't it? You just wait thinking it's useless, nothing will come of it. Huh. Good lines, huh? And then a bunch of zombies show up and the episode ends. So, lucky, I guess. Okay, sure. That's, man, what good ending to the episode. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to talk about. Um, I don't know. I don't know. That is a real head scratcher of an episode. Really got to think about that one. I don't know if I'm fully happy with everything. I really got to think about it. But I guess that's it. Yeah, that's it. Subscribe, please, if you enjoy my videos and you aren't subscribed. Please click the button down there. Leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I will see you in the next one.